The members of the Galactic Council, a collection of the most technologically advanced and influential alien civilizations in the known galaxy, convened in their opulent chamber on the capital planet of Zendari. The towering figures of the Council, representing races as diverse as the seven-limbed Vrelians, the enigmatic Zaloth, and the ever-pragmatic Tarkasians, radiated an air of supreme confidence. At the center of the chamber stood Grilloth, the Grand Speaker of the Council, his imposing presence commanding the attention of all present. With a sweeping gesture of his 4 luminescent tentacles, Grilloth addressed his fellow councillors. My esteemed colleagues, the time has come to finally integrate the primitive human race into our glorious galactic alliance. For far too long, we have allowed these insignificant creatures to wallow in their own ignorance, content to watch as they slowly develop their limited technological capabilities. Grilloth's tone dripped with condescension. The other councillors murmured in agreement, their expressions a mix of disdain and impatience. The humans have reached a point where their continued isolation poses a threat to the stability of our interstellar order, Grilloth continued. Their reckless expansion and disregard for the delicate balance of power threaten to disrupt the harmony we have so carefully cultivated over millennia. It is our duty, as the enlightened guardians of the galaxy, to bring them into the fold, whether they wish it or not. A Tarkasian councillor, her cybernetic implants glinting in the dim light, spoke up. And what of their stubborn refusal to acknowledge our authority? Surely they will not simply submit to our demands without resistance. Grilloth's tentacles twitched with amusement. Resistance. The humans are but children compared to our might. Their primitive weapons and antiquated social structures pose no threat to our advanced civilizations. Once we present them with our ultimatum, they will have no choice but to comply. The other councillors nodded in agreement, their expressions ranging from indifference to gleeful anticipation. Then let us waste no more time, Grilloth declared, his voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. Summon the human representatives to Zendari at once. It is time they learned their place in the greater galactic order. As the Council's messengers departed to deliver the summons, a sense of eager anticipation permeated the air. The members of the Galactic Council were convinced that their victory over the humans was all but assured. After all, what chance did these primitive, warlike creatures have against the might and wisdom of the Council? Little did they know that their arrogance and underestimation of the human spirit would soon be their undoing. On Earth, the news of the Galactic Council's ultimatum spread like wildfire, igniting a passionate response from the global community. Leaders from all corners of the world convened emergency meetings, their faces etched with a mix of disbelief and determination. President Elizabeth Hernandez, the charismatic leader of the United States, addressed the gathered heads of state, her steely gaze sweeping across the room. Our world has been issued a challenge, a demand to surrender our sovereignty and submit to the whims of an alien council that knows nothing of our struggles, our resilience, or our potential. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. For centuries, we have fought to overcome our differences, to build a future where all of humanity can thrive. Now these enlightened guardians of the galaxy have the audacity to tell us that our hard-won freedoms are meaningless, that we must abandon our dreams of exploration and self-determination. Hernandez's fist clenched, her knuckles turning white. I say we show them the true power of the human spirit. We will not back down. We will not surrender. We will stand united, and we will defend our right to determine our own destiny. The room erupted in thunderous applause, the leaders of Earth standing as one, their resolve hardening in the face of the Galactic Council's ultimatum. As the meeting drew to a close, President Hernandez turned to her closest advisors, a steely glint in her eyes. Prepare our response. Let the Galactic Council know that we will not be cowed, that we are ready to face whatever challenges they bring our way. For too long, we have been underestimated. Now we will show them the true might of humanity. The die had been cast, and a stage was set for a confrontation that would forever change the course of human history. The representatives of the world's nations gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall of the United Nations headquarters in New York, the air thick with tension and anticipation. President Elizabeth Hernandez stood at the podium, her unwavering gaze sweeping across the room. My fellow leaders, we have been summoned to Zendari, the capital of the Galactic Council, to receive their ultimatum. They demand that we surrender our sovereignty and submit to their authority, or face exile from the galactic community. Hernandez paused, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. This is an unacceptable demand. For centuries, humanity has fought to forge our own path, to build a future where we determine our own destiny. We will not meekly surrender that hard-won freedom to a council of alien overlords who know nothing of our struggles and our potential. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, a chorus of defiant voices rising in support of the president's stance. General Marcus Douglas, the decorated commander of the United States Armed Forces, stepped forward. We must be prepared for the consequences of our refusal. The Galactic Council has made it clear that they view us as inferior, a threat to their precious order. They will not hesitate to use their technological and military superiority against us. Douglas's gaze hardened. But we are not without our own strengths. Our people have faced adversity and emerged stronger, our innovative spirit driving us to overcome every challenge that has stood in our way. If the Galactic Council seeks to subjugate us, they will find that we are a force to be reckoned with. The assembled leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions resolute. Michael Harrington, a brilliant young scientist from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, stepped up to the podium. We may not have the same level of advanced technology as the Galactic Council, but our scientific community is more than capable of adapting and evolving. We have the ingenuity and determination to close that gap, to turn their own weapons against them if necessary. Harrington's eyes gleamed with a determined fire. I pledge the full resources of our scientific and technological institutions to this cause. We will not surrender, we will fight, and we will win. The room erupted in thunderous applause, the leaders of Earth united in their defiance of the Galactic Council's demands. President Hernandez raised her hand, silencing the crowd. Then it is decided. We will not bow to the Galactic Council's ultimatum. We will stand firm in the face of their aggression and show them the true power of the human spirit. She turned to the assembled representatives, her gaze unwavering. Go forth and deliver our message to your people. Prepare your nations for what may come. For too long, we have been underestimated. Now, we will prove our worth to the galaxy, or we will die trying. As the leaders dispersed to carry out Hernandez's orders, a sense of unity and determination permeated the air. The nations of Earth, once divided by petty squabbles and competing interests, now stood as one, ready to face the might of the Galactic Council head-on. In the shadows, a figure observed the proceedings, his cold, calculating eyes gleaming with malevolence. General Mikhail Volkov, the leader of the Novaya Rodina. A powerful and secretive military junta had long been waiting for this moment. So, the humans choose to defy the Galactic Council, Volkov murmured, a twisted smile spreading across his face. Excellent. This presents an opportunity that I cannot pass up. Turning to his trusted aides, Volkov issued a series of orders, his voice laced with a chilling certainty. Prepare our forces. We will offer our assistance to the Galactic Council, and in doing so, We will ensure that the human race is brought to heel one way or another. The time has come to seize our rightful place in the galactic order. As the world's nations braced for the impending conflict, a new threat emerged from the shadows, one that would complicate the already perilous situation facing humanity. The Galactic Council's representatives, led by the imposing figure of Grilloth, the Grand Speaker, arrived on Earth with an air of superiority and confidence. They had expected the human leaders to be cowed by the sheer magnitude of the Council's power and authority, readily accepting the ultimatum without question. However, as Grilloth and his entourage stepped onto the tarmac of the United Nations headquarters in New York, they were greeted by a sight that immediately shattered their assumptions. Lined up before them, standing tall and resolute, were the leaders of the world's nations, their expressions a mix of defiance and determination. President Elizabeth Hernandez stepped forward, her gaze unwavering as she addressed the alien delegates. "Welcome to Earth, representatives of the Galactic Council. I trust you have received our response to your ultimatum." Hernandez's voice was measured and calm, betraying none of the fire that burned within her. Grilloth's tentacles twitched with barely concealed irritation. "Your response is regrettable, President Hernandez. The Galactic Council had hoped that you and your people would see reason and accept our generous offer of integration into our interstellar alliance." Hernandez narrowed her eyes. "Generous offer. You demand that we surrender our sovereignty and submit to your authority. That is no offer, but an ultimatum born of arrogance and disregard for the rights of our people." The other world leaders stepped forward, their expressions echoing Hernandez's defiant stance. General Douglas, his uniform immaculate and his bearing commanding, spoke up. "The humans have endured countless challenges, from wars and natural disasters to the ravages of disease and poverty. Yet, we have always emerged stronger, our resolve unbroken. What makes you think we will simply yield to your demands, alien overlord?" Grilloth's tentacles tightened into fists, his patience visibly wearing thin. "Overlord? You dare to speak to me in such a manner, you primitive creature. The Galactic Council is the embodiment of enlightenment and progress. We have conquered the very laws of nature, mastered the secrets of the universe. You are but children, stumbling in the dark, and we offer you the chance to join us in the light." A murmur of outrage rippled through the human representatives, their faces flushed with anger. President Hernandez raised her hand, silencing the crowd. "We have heard your words, Grilloth. Now, hear ours. Humanity will not bow to your demands. We will defend our freedom and our right to determine our own destiny, even if it means facing the full might of your Galactic Council." Grilloth's eyes narrowed to slits, his tentacles quivering with rage. "You will regret this decision, President Hernandez. The Council has shown great patience and restraint in dealing with your kind. But that patience has reached its limit. You have been warned." With a dramatic flourish, Grilloth and his delegation departed, leaving the human representatives to ponder the gravity of their choice. As the alien ships departed, President Hernandez turned to her advisors, a steely glint in her eyes. "Prepare our defenses. Mobilize our military and scientific resources. If the Galactic Council seeks to subjugate us, they will find that humanity is far more than just a primitive species to be tamed." General Douglas stepped forward, his expression grim. "We will do everything in our power to protect our people, President Hernandez. But we must be realistic. The Galactic Council's technological and military capabilities far surpass our own. We will need to find a way to level the playing field if we are to have any chance of prevailing." Michael Harrington, the brilliant young scientist, spoke up. "Then that is precisely what we will do. I and my colleagues will work tirelessly to reverse engineer the Galactic Council's technology, to find ways to adapt and enhance our own capabilities. We will not go down without a fight. As the human leaders dispersed to carry out their respective tasks, a sense of unease and uncertainty lingered in the air. The Galactic Council had significantly underestimated the resolve and determination of the human race. Now they would have to face the consequences of their arrogance. The skies above Earth grew dark as the massive warships of the Galactic Council descended upon the planet, their hulking forms blotting out the sun. President Hernandez and her advisors watched the invasion unfold from the command center, their expressions grim but resolute. "So it begins," Hernandez murmured, her fingers tightening around the edge of the console. Grilloth and his council had made their move. Now we must show them the true might of humanity. General Douglas stepped forward, his face etched with a mixture of determination and concern. "Our early warning systems have detected hundreds of enemy vessels, including large troop transports and heavily armed battlecruisers. Their firepower and sheer numbers dwarf anything we've ever faced before." He paused, meeting Hernandez's gaze. "But our people are ready. We've been preparing for this confrontation, and we will not go down without a fight." Michael Harrington, the brilliant young scientist, joined them at the console, his eyes alight with a fierce determination. "The reverse engineering process has been progressing faster than I ever imagined. We've managed to adapt some of the Galactic Council's technologies to our own weapon systems, and our engineers have been working around the clock to mass-produce these new armaments." Hernandez nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Then let us waste no more time. Order our forces to engage the enemy. Show Grilloth and his council that they have greatly underestimated the tenacity and ingenuity of the human race." As the order was relayed to the troops on the ground and in the air, the skies above Earth erupted in a dazzling display of firepower. Sleek human fighter craft, bolstered by the reverse-engineered alien technology, launched a barrage of missiles and energy weapons against the Galactic Council's imposing warships. To the Council's shock and dismay, the human defences proved far more formidable than they had anticipated. Powerful energy shields deflected the Council's attacks, while precision-guided munitions punched through the alien vessels' hulls, sending them reeling. Grilloth, his tentacles clenched in fury, watched the unfolding battle from the bridge of his flagship. Impossible. How can these primitive humans be holding their own against the might of the Galactic Council? One of his officers, a Zaloth commander, stepped forward, his voice laced with a ray of tone of concern. "It appears they have managed to adapt and integrate some of our own technologies into their weapon systems. Their scientific and engineering capabilities are far more advanced than we gave them credit for." Grilloth's eyes narrowed to slits, his tentacles twitching with barely contained rage. "Then we shall overwhelm them with sheer force. Order the full deployment of our ground troops and armoured divisions. Let the humans see the true might of the Galactic Council." As the alien ground forces poured onto the surface of Earth, the human defenders braced for the onslaught. General Douglas, his battle-hardened gaze sweeping across the horizon, raised his fist. "For our freedom and the future of humanity, hold the line, soldiers. Show these alien invaders what we're made of." The human troops, their weapons blazing, met the Galactic Council's forces head-on, engaging in a ferocious battle that shook the very foundations of the planet. The skies above were a cacophony of explosions and laser fire, while the ground trembled under the weight of the clash between the two determined adversaries. Grilloth watched the unfolding conflict, his tentacles clenched in frustration. This cannot be. We are the Galactic Council, the embodiment of superior might and intellect. How can these these humans be resisting us so fiercely? As the battle raged on, the humans' determination and resourcefulness proved to be a formidable challenge to the Galactic Council's overwhelming firepower. The tide of the invasion began to turn, and Grilloth realized, to his horror, that his arrogance and underestimation of the human spirit had been his undoing. As the battle raged on, with human and Galactic Council forces locked in a fierce struggle for the fate of the planet, a young scientist named Michael Harrington worked tirelessly in the hidden labs of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Surrounded by a team of equally brilliant minds, Harrington was racing against time to unravel the secrets of the alien technology that had fallen into human hands. The energy signatures of their weapons are unlike anything we've ever encountered, Harrington muttered, his fingers flying across the holographic displays. We need to find a way to not just mimic their capabilities, but to surpass them. One of his colleagues, a physicist named Dr. Samantha Ling, leaned over his shoulder, her eyes narrowed in concentration. The power source at the heart of their technology is the key. If we can reverse engineer their reactors, we may be able to create our own systems that are more efficient, more powerful, and more adaptable to our existing infrastructure. Harrington nodded, his expression intense. That's exactly what I'm thinking, but we need to work quickly. Every minute we waste is a minute the Galactic Council's forces gain ground. We have to give our troops the edge they need to turn the tide of this battle. Across the globe, the human forces were struggling to hold their ground against the overwhelming firepower of the Galactic Council's invasion. General Douglas, his uniform singed and his face etched with the strain of battle, barked orders into his communication device. All units, fall back to the secondary defensive line. We need to regroup and consolidate our forces. Where the hell is that support from the tech division? Back in the MIT labs, Harrington and his team were working feverishly, their fingers a blur as they tapped away at their consoles. Suddenly, Harrington's eyes widened, and he turned to Dr. Ling with a triumphant grin. We've done it. The new power source is ready for field deployment. Get it to the front lines immediately. Within minutes, the first of the newly developed energy reactors were being installed in human weapon systems and vehicles, their enhanced power and efficiency quickly turning the tide of the battle. As the Galactic Council's forces pressed their assault, they were met with a barrage of energy beams and plasma cannons that far exceeded the capabilities of their own armaments. The human troops, energized by the newfound technological advantage, fought with a renewed vigor, pushing back the alien invaders. Grilloth, watching the conflict from the bridge of his flagship, could scarcely believe his eyes. Impossible. How have the humans managed to develop such advanced weaponry in such a short time? One of his officers, a Tarkasian scientist, stepped forward, her cybernetic implants gleaming in the dim light. It appears they have managed to reverse engineer and adapt our own power source technology. Their scientific prowess is truly remarkable. Grilloth's tentacles tightened into fists, his anger palpable. Then we must neutralize this threat at the source. Dispatch our best troops to capture the human laboratories and secure the technology. We cannot allow them to gain any further advantage over us. As the Galactic Council's elite forces descended upon the MIT campus, Harrington and his team braced for the onslaught. The young scientist's eyes narrowed with determination, his mind racing to devise a plan that would allow them to hold off the alien invaders long enough for their latest innovations to reach the front lines. We've come too far to let them take this away from us, Harrington growled, his fingers flying across the keyboards. The fate of humanity rests on our shoulders. We cannot fail. The battle for the MIT labs was fierce and intense, as the human defenders fought tooth and nail to protect their scientific breakthroughs. Harrington and his colleagues put their brilliant minds to use, developing improvised defensive systems and deploying strategic countermeasures that confounded the Galactic Council's forces. As the sun began to set over the battered campus, the tide of the battle had turned once more, with the Galactic Council's troops forced to retreat in the face of the humans' unyielding resistance. Grilloth, his tentacles trembling with rage, watched the retreating forces with a growing sense of unease. This cannot be. The humans have somehow managed to close the technological gap. We must reconsider our strategy or risk losing this war altogether. In the aftermath of the battle, President Hernandez and General Douglas gathered with the victorious scientists, their expressions a mix of relief and awe. Michael Harrington, Hernandez said, her voice warm with admiration, "You and your team have proven that the human spirit is a force to be reckoned with. Your innovations have given us the edge we need to push back the Galactic Council's invasion. For that, we are forever grateful." Harrington, his face flushed with pride, nodded solemnly. "We will not falter, President Hernandez. As long as there is breath in our lungs, we will fight to defend our freedom and our future. The Galactic Council has underestimated us for the last time." As the Galactic Council's forces reeled from the unexpected technological advancements of the human defenders, Grilloth, the Grand Speaker, paced the bridge of his flagship, his tentacles twitching with barely contained rage. "How is this possible?" he growled, his eyes narrowed to slits. "We have subjugated countless civilizations, each one falling before the might of the Galactic Council. Yet these humans have managed to defy us at every turn." One of Grilloth's lieutenants, a Zaloth commander, approached cautiously. "The human scientists have proven to be far more innovative and resourceful than we anticipated. Their ability to rapidly reverse engineer and adapt our own technologies has given them a significant tactical advantage." Grilloth's tentacles clenched into fists. "Unacceptable. We are the embodiment of progress and enlightenment. Our technological superiority is the foundation of our power, and these primitive creatures dare to challenge it." The Zaloth commander cleared his throat, his voice tinged with unease. "It would appear so, Grand Speaker. Our forces have suffered heavy losses in the latest engagements, and our attempts to capture the human research facilities have been thwarted. The humans are fighting with a determination we have not encountered before." Grilloth let out a frustrated snarl, his tentacles lashing out and knocking over a nearby console. "Then we must adapt our strategy. Summon the Council, all of them. We must discuss a new course of action, one that will break the will of these stubborn humans once and for all." As the Galactic Council convened in their opulent chambers, the mood was somber and tense. Grilloth, his imposing presence commanding the attention of his fellow councillors, delivered a grim report on the state of the invasion. "Our forces have been repelled at every turn, unable to overcome the technological innovations of the human defenders. Their scientists have managed to reverse engineer our own power sources and weaponry, giving them a distinct advantage on the battlefield." The other councillors exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions a mix of disbelief and concern. A Vrelian councillor, her 7 luminescent eyes narrowed, spoke up. "This is most troubling. We have never encountered a civilization with such adaptability and resilience. If they continue to close the technological gap, we may be facing a protracted and costly conflict." Grilloth's tentacles twitched with frustration. "Precisely. We must find a way to break their spirit, to crush their will to resist. Overwhelming force is no longer enough. We must strike at the heart of their defiance." A Tarkasian councillor, her cybernetic implants gleaming in the dim light, raised a hand. "Perhaps a different approach is warranted. These humans, for all their faults, have demonstrated a remarkable ability to innovate and adapt. If we were to offer them a true partnership, rather than mere subjugation, we may be able to harness their potential for the betterment of the entire galactic community. Grilloth's eyes widened in disbelief. Partnership. You'd have us treat these primitives as equals? Unthinkable. The Galactic Council has always ruled with an iron fist, bending lesser civilizations to our will. The Tarkasian councillor held Grilloth's gaze, her expression unwavering. And yet, the humans have proven that they will not be so easily bent. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our approach, lest we risk losing this war altogether. The other councillors murmured in agreement, their expressions thoughtful. Grilloth, sensing the shift in the room, let out a frustrated sigh. Very well, we shall explore this alternative path. But be warned, if the humans do not respond favourably, we will have no choice but to use the full force of our might to subjugate them. As the Galactic Council adjourned, a sense of unease and uncertainty hung in the air. The humans had proven to be a far more formidable adversary than anyone had anticipated, and the Council found itself forced to reconsider its long-held assumptions about the inferior human race. On Earth, President Hernandez and her advisors received the latest reports from the front lines, their expressions a mix of relief and cautious optimism. It would seem the Galactic Council is finally beginning to understand the true strength of the human spirit, Hernandez said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. We have shown them that we will not surrender our freedom without a fight. Now we must be prepared for whatever they have in store for us next. As the clouds of war continued to gather on the horizon, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, the outcome of the conflict still very much in doubt. As the tides of the war began to turn in favor of the human defenders, President Elizabeth Hernandez and her advisors convened a high-level strategy meeting to discuss their next moves. The Galactic Council is finally beginning to understand the futility of their invasion, Hernandez said, her gaze sweeping across the room. Their arrogance and assumptions about our weakness have been shattered. Now we must seize the initiative and dictate the terms of any future negotiations. General Douglas, his uniform still bearing the scars of battle, nodded in agreement. Our forces have pushed the Galactic Council's invasion force back, and we've managed to secure several key strategic locations. We're in a stronger position now than we've ever been. Michael Harrington, the brilliant young scientist, spoke up, his eyes alight with determination. And our technological innovations continue to give us the edge we need to counter the Council's superior firepower. If we play our cards right, we can force them to the negotiating table on our terms. Hernandez smiled, a glint of steel in her eyes. Precisely. It's time we showed the Galactic Council that we are more than just a primitive civilization to be subjugated. We are the masters of our own destiny, and we will not settle for anything less than full recognition of our sovereignty and the right to chart our own course among the stars. The assembled leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions resolute. In the opulent chambers of the Galactic Council, Grilloth and his fellow councillors convened once more to discuss the unexpected turn of events. The Grand Speaker's tentacles twitched with a mix of frustration and reluctant acknowledgement. The human forces have proven to be a far more formidable opponent than we ever anticipated. Their tenacity, their ability to adapt, and their newfound technological prowess have turned the tide of this war in their favour. A Vrelian councillor, her luminescent eyes narrowed, spoke up. We are facing the very real possibility of a prolonged and costly conflict, one that may ultimately result in a stalemate or even a defeat for the Galactic Council. We must consider alternative approaches if we are to salvage this situation. Grilloth let out a resigned sigh. Very well. It appears we have no choice but to extend an olive branch to the humans and attempt to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict. The Tarkasian councillor, her cybernetic implants gleaming, nodded approvingly. A wise decision, Grand Speaker. If we are to maintain the stability and harmony of the galactic community, we must be willing to adapt and embrace new perspectives, even if it means compromising our own preconceptions. As the Galactic Council's representatives arrived on Earth, they were greeted by a somber yet resolute President Hernandez and her advisors. The air was thick with tension, but also a sense of cautious optimism. "Welcome to Earth, representatives of the Galactic Council," Hernandez said, her voice measured and calm. "I trust you have come to negotiate in good faith, rather than to continue your futile attempts at subjugation." Grilloth, his tentacles held in a gesture of conciliation, inclined his head. "Indeed, President Hernandez. The Galactic Council has recognized the folly of our previous actions and the need to pursue a more constructive path forward." He paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. "We are prepared to offer your people full recognition of your sovereignty, as well as the opportunity to participate as equals in the affairs of the galactic community. In return, we ask that you cease your hostilities and collaborate with us on matters of mutual interest." Hernandez raised a hand, silencing the murmurs of her advisors. "Your offer is intriguing, Grilloth. However, we have our own demands that must be met if we are to consider such an arrangement." Grilloth's tentacles twitched, but he nodded for her to continue. "First and foremost, we must have the right to explore and colonize the stars as we see fit, without interference from the Galactic Council. Secondly, we demand full access to the technological knowledge and resources of your alliance, so that we may continue to advance our own capabilities." Hernandez's gaze hardened. "And lastly, we will not accept any conditions that infringe upon our sovereignty or the right of the human race to determine its own destiny." Grilloth's eyes widened slightly, but he inclined his head once more. "Your terms are reasonable, President Hernandez. The Galactic Council is prepared to accept these conditions, provided that we can establish a framework for ongoing cooperation and mutual understanding." As the negotiations commenced, a new era of galactic cooperation began to take shape, one that would forever change the balance of power in the cosmos. As the historic negotiations between the human representatives and the Galactic Council drew to a close, a palpable sense of hope and anticipation filled the air. After years of conflict and confrontation, the two sides had finally reached an agreement that would shape the future of the galaxy. President Hernandez, her expression a mix of triumph and relief, stood before the assembled dignitaries, her voice strong and unwavering. "Today, we have taken a monumental step forward, not just for the people of Earth, but for the entire galactic community. The Galactic Council has recognized the sovereignty and the right of the human race to chart its own course among the stars." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "In return, we have agreed to collaborate with the Council, sharing our knowledge and resources, and working together to address the challenges that face us all." Grilloth, the Grand Speaker of the Council, stepped forward, his tentacles held in a gesture of respect. "President Hernandez, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I acknowledge the remarkable resilience and ingenuity of the human race. You have proven yourselves to be worthy partners, and we look forward to a future of mutual understanding and progress." The assembled dignitaries applauded, the tension and unease of the past giving way to a sense of cautious optimism. General Douglas, his expression grim but resolute, approached Hernandez and Grilloth. "This agreement is a significant step forward, but we must remain vigilant. The scars of war will not heal overnight, and there may be those who seek to undermine the fragile peace we have forged. Grilloth nodded sullenly. Your concerns are valid, General Douglas. The Galactic Council will work tirelessly to ensure the stability and security of our newfound partnership. We have learned a valuable lesson from this conflict, that the human spirit is a force to be reckoned with, and that true progress can only be achieved through cooperation and mutual respect. Michael Harrington, the brilliant young scientist, stepped forward, his eyes shining with excitement. The opportunities for collaboration are endless. Imagine the advancements we can achieve by combining our knowledge and resources, the technological breakthroughs, the scientific discoveries, the expansions of human and alien settlements throughout the galaxy. Hernandez smiled, placing a hand on Harrington's shoulder. Indeed, Michael. This agreement opens the door to a future of endless possibilities. We will work side by side with the Galactic Council to explore the stars, to push the boundaries of what we thought possible, and to create a better tomorrow for all. As the formal signing ceremony commenced, the human and alien representatives came together, their handshakes and embraces a symbol of the new era of cooperation that had dawned. In the years that followed, the partnership between humanity and the Galactic Council flourished. Humans and aliens alike worked tirelessly to share their knowledge and resources, collaborating on groundbreaking scientific and technological projects that advanced the frontiers of exploration and understanding. The once wary human settlers ventured out into the stars, establishing colonies and outposts on distant worlds, forging new alliances and trading partnerships with alien civilizations. The Galactic Council, in turn, welcomed the human representatives as equals, granting them full access to the Council's archives and the resources of the Interstellar Alliance. Through this newfound cooperation, the barriers that had once divided the galaxy began to crumble. Cultures mingled, ideas were exchanged, and a sense of mutual understanding and respect blossomed, paving the way for a future of endless possibilities. As President Hernandez stood on the balcony of the newly established Galactic Embassy, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape of the human capital, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and gratitude. The Galactic Council once underestimated the power of the human spirit, she murmured, a smile playing on her lips. But in the end, it was our determination, our ingenuity, and our refusal to surrender that forged a new path forward, one that has finally brought us together as equals, partners in the great journey of exploration and discovery. With a renewed sense of purpose, Hernandez turned and rejoined the bustling activity within the embassy, confident that the future of humanity and the Galactic Council was brighter than ever before.